Welcome to another episode of the Journeyman Co. Welcome everybody to another episode here with the Journeyman Co. and myself, Mikey Van Buren, and our very own Jeffy Williams. Hello, Butty.
How's it, Michael? Good to see you, mate. It's been a minute.
Good to see you, my brother. Listen, thanks to everyone again who supports the podcast. We appreciate all your support. We appreciate all the messages, appreciate all the likes and the shares. It means a lot to us as we move forward and try and build a very special business, something that's very special to myself and Jeff, sharing knowledge, sharing stories from inspirational people. So we hope that you can continue to enjoy what we are doing. So Jeff, tonight, boy, we've got Tabai Matson again returning. The first member of the Journeyman crew to return for a second podcast. He's obviously, highly respected coach, and his first podcast was received with very positive feedback. People really enjoyed listening to him about culture, character. He's obviously someone that's very wise. Not only in rugby, but in life. So I'm looking forward to having him back on. Someone that's really close to you as well. You're getting him involved with the Belgium Sevens.
Yeah, he's coming to help. He's coming to help me, I think, as just a bit of oversight and coaching me and helping some of the guys. I mean, it's a great experience for them to have someone of Tabs's experience, and his humanness is fantastic. We both know that. But I think having him on now in this edition of Chess Not Checkers, it's fantastic. He has a little bit of time for us. So we're going to lap it up. We're going to take all the opportunities we can to, get all that information out of him. Some good topics we want to talk about, a little bit of the state of the game currently, the battle of momentum. Again, we'll touch into a little bit of culture, but the big thing for me is going through how he creates that environment where he's so approachable. That is such a big thing. We spoke about it with Toko Fekatoa about approachable coaches and the importance of a good environment. Tabs comes from the Crusaders dynasty. So, I mean, it's going to be fantastic. Can't wait to get into it. Let's go. And did you see that? Did you watch the roasting of Tom Brady?
I've seen clips, bro. It looks brutal.
It looks good. It looks good. I can't wait.
Just to elaborate on that, I think it's really nice to have a guy like Tabs on.
Yeah.
Especially because, we're getting to that age now where us or our mates are transitioning into coaching. And there can be a lot of pitfalls for young coaches. So for us to have
touched on that last time as well, but we'll go into it a little bit, I think, with him today. So that's a great point, Mike.
Yeah, just to have, I think essentially a lot of us are trying to transition now into coaching as the kind of career is in the twilight.
But don't sell your soul. Don't sell your soul to the man.
No, but
that's what I'm saying, bro. The new age of coaches are out, bro. That McVay of the coaching world, you look around the NFL, they're probably a couple of years ahead of any other sports. So,
yeah, well,
it's nice.
Well,
actually, you know what? Gloucester are like that, bro. Gloucester got such a young coaching staff. A guy who used to play with me, James Lightfoot Brown, he's coaching at Gloucester. He runs the attack. He came from London Irish. He was like 5-6 years younger than me, and we were playing seven. So, and he's doing great things. He's doing great things with.
Well, George Skivington is heading up that program, and I mean, I worked with Skivs a bit at London Irish when I went on loan, and he's a quality young coach. There's a lot of good young coaches coming through. Probably not enough, in my opinion.
Northampton, a great young coaching staff.
Great coaches, and they obviously sitting at the top of the log. But I just think there's so much knowledge out there to be shared by these elder statesmen, the godfathers of coaching.
Oh, for sure.
And we'll keep getting them on. I want to get John Mitchell on in the future. I want to speak to Jake White. Would love to speak to Eddie Jones. Yeah,
Eddie, sure. I'm a bit scared of Eddie, bro. He's a little bit he's punchy. But we have to get him on. If we can get Eddie Jones on, that'll be pretty interesting conversation.
Oh, there's so many coaches we want to talk to. So hopefully
Yeah.
our listeners keep an eye out. There could be a lot of big time coaches coming onto the Journeyman Co podcast in the future. But for now, we are really honored to have Tabai Matson. So let's see what he has to say. But how are you, Tabs?
Man, I'm good. Yeah, I think you can see in the corner there. I'm watching old Belgium Sevens games. They're good.
Oh, well,
Actually, well, some of that old stuff is, mate, they play one-off runners. It's quite a unique thing to watch. Some of the old
But I just saw they played because I watched Singapore over the weekend, and like I don't know, it would have been like when was the European series, the sevens?
would have
this
been
time
last
year.
June. Last June.
Yeah. So 10 months ago. And they were playing, they got beaten by 1.5 scores by Ireland. And have it, Ireland are number 2 in the world.
Yep.
Man.
Playing good sevens footy. Really clever, clinical, smart ball protection. They're a good team. Well, look at that. Look how they've gone on a run like that. And they got themselves, they were fighting for, they could have won the series if Argentina lost. And they need to beat New
It
Zealand.
would have been a hollow victory because they actually haven't won a tournament.
Yeah, that's weird, eh?
How can you be number 2 having not won a tournament? It just shows you how everybody's beating everybody and people are getting knocked out of the quarters, and they must be just chipping away, getting silver and bronze, silver and bronze, silver and bronze.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing with sevens is planning that the way you attack it, almost like Formula One style. You got to read into the way Formula One teams. Well, obviously, you go out to win every single tournament, but to really keep yourself in that middle of the pack, and then make a late surge, or pick off a few tournaments that you fancy. Time zones and stuff like that. Sevens is such a big thing, and I tweeted about it actually. I was like, the storyline, World Rugby, Tom Mitchell, my old captain, he's on commentary. Kaltanana, he's still doing the commentary, and it's quite a nice little thing World Rugby have got. They've changed their website. It's fun. It looks good. Like you want to watch.
It does look good.
2-3 years, I was like, where's World Rugby taking this? It feels it's lost its. I wasn't that proud to be a sevens player. I was like, this is not really the product that they're producing or they're showing isn't really, but now they've got a few characters. There's a few superheroes, a few RGs, a couple New Zealand players. It's looking good.
DuPont for the Olympics. Oof.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the Olympics in Paris will hopefully again take the game to another level.
Well, you've got the best player. I mean, the fact that what's his name, Dupont is playing it. He's like a god out here, a football, like a Messi.
Yeah.
France. The kids are like, he's linked with Louis Vuitton. He was speaking to James Beattie before the Harlequins match, and he was talking about the sevens and how he really fancies. There's a bit of silverware here for the French team. He believes they can go and get some medals, and also he said this, his own personal brand and playing something like this and being an Olympic. So
no one's been an Olympic medalist and a world champion, have they? Is anyone down there?
No, Fiji won
Fiji won it. No, but who won
the second Olympics? What? No,
Fiji again.
Fiji again.
Yeah.
Double champions. And that was your national team that you played for in the 1999 World Cup. So
yeah, I didn't play sevens though. I was
you never played sevens?
Not for Fiji. No way. Nowhere near good enough. I was at school in Christchurch, right? And I'm a pretty good rugby player. So I make the Canterbury Sevens team, which is it's a bit of a big deal when you kind of first year out of school.
Yeah.
When I was at school, the sevens captain is picking me up from my high school to take me to sevens training, and then I go home to Fiji in the school holidays, the Christmas school holidays. I go down to my local rugby club. I'll play for Marist, and I'm in the third team of a club side in Fiji. And sevens is unbelievable. Clearly, like you go back, we're going back 20, 30 years, and Navua had five Fiji international teams they had 5 Fiji internationals, including Serevi.
Yeah.
And I was at home for like 6 weeks. There were 5 tournaments around Fiji. Nambour didn't win one tournament. They didn't win one tournament with 5
That is,
internationals.
I've heard some of the stories.
I'm in the 3rd team for Marist. Anyway.
This is the topic I want to talk about too. This is what I want to go down with you. I mean, if I was choosing, you would be a great loose head prop. The heights, the
bit of kick off, bit of line out.
Part of the podcast, because this is gold that you're talking here.
This is part of the podcast. I think we just let it roll. You know, you can introduce him afterwards.
Well, Tabai needs no introduction. He's
there you go, business.
We just had living here. Like this is the thing about being journeyman, isn't it? Well, we've been around, we've done different things, and if you go back, you know, sometimes you rub shoulders with some. Serevi was one of the greats.
Oh my lord!
Yeah,
greatest ever, wasn't he?
Hey, I would have been a good loose head, but I don't have a big engine. That's the problem with sevens now. I've got this.
That's the thing. To buy, there's rolling subs. So you use these little bursts. Yeah, you use these bursts. So you can use your players 3-minute intervals. It's all about your training and how you bring them on. I've got this thing now with the sevens where I call it the Formula 1 pit stop. So we get 3 or 4 guys waiting with ice packs, some rehydrates. They come in and it's zip, zip, zip. We zip them up, especially into Toulon. I promise you, I call it the Formula 1 pit stop. It's almost like want to be like Ferrari. I want the guys coming in, refuel, reset, and you're going to go back. You're going to go back out in 30 seconds. And I loved it. I love this idea of like, you know, I was selling it because I've got this idea. I was like, wow, this is such a cool idea. You know me, I get so excited. So I'm like, listen, guys, this art's going to work. Jens, you know, he's 32. He's our big old ball carrier. 3 minutes. Give me 3 minutes. Come off. 1 minute in the pit stop, Formula 1 pit stop. Put you in there. Got your ice. Get your wet towel on your neck. Give you some rehydrate, some water, and I want you back on in 4 minutes. You know, at the 4 minute mark, we let you play for another 2 minutes. And they loved it. The boys were laughing and all that shite. So it was quite cool. We would get you doing that. I'd get you doing the Formula 1 pit stop. Get you.
Yeah, man, I'll be good. I'll be good in the pits.
Yeah.
A little massage. Come on.
Yeah.
Shoulders over, a little hemi. That's exciting. And you're right. Like it's about, can I recharge the power so I can go back out there, have another impact for 2-3 minutes, and then it's half time. Again, refocus, refuel, recharge.
Yeah.
Are you looking?
We're going to go down this. Okay. I don't know, Mike. Do you want to be formal and introduce it, or should we just carry on going? Yeah, I'm loving this. Come on, Mike.
We could just carry on going. Tabs needs no introduction. He's part of the
subtitle introduction.
Family.
Subtitles. We just got straight into
not checkers.
Part of the family. What I did just want to say before, like, we get into it, like, obviously, Tabs, we really appreciate you coming on again. I hope it's the second of many, 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 because your first chat with us received so much positive impact, and we'll get into that as the conversation lingers down the road. So thank you for being on with us. Now you can get back into your chat about Belgium Sevens and how you're going to revolutionize that program with old Hefe there.
Thank you, Mana. Thanks for coming
I'm excited about Geneva.
Yeah, it's going to be good. It's going to be good fun.
Yeah, no secrets here.
Yeah, exactly. We keep it on the down low.
Yeah.
Actually,
it's funny.
Domination.
Yeah, I'm actually just there supporting Jeff. And I think that's one of the things about the journeyman is like you got a group of mates from around the planet, and when you get a chance to kind of reconnect and help out or drop in and spend time, often that's how you rejuvenate. So I'm really excited about this weekend. I haven't been to a sevens tournament. Like I haven't been in the pits.
Yeah.
I haven't been in the pits of sevens for like a decade. You know, I've gone to watch lots of the HSBC sevens and gone as a fan, but actually to be in the pits is going to be really cool for me.
Well, I'm actually
there observing Jeff.
I just think it's so cool that like you've got a group of people that love the game, that love sharing knowledge, love getting better, and just are connecting like that and helping each other out. I think that's class. Like Jeff couldn't have a better mentor to learn from this coming week. So it's going to be great to see what happens.
No, for me, just to give you some clarity on this, it's a preparation camp. So for us, we're not going there as a tournament. We're going there as actually training. So what my belief was going into the program. He was trying to, how can we maximize with minimal budget? What can I do to get the guys ready? Anticipation, because anticipation beats reaction every single day of the week in my books. And for me, it was like, how can we go into these tournaments and there's no pitfalls? There's no like, oh shit, this doesn't work, or my manager doesn't know how to do this, or we don't know where to sleep. Or so for me, we've got 3 little tournaments leading into the Europeans, which for the group, they're very experienced guys. They've been together for 5-6 years. So it's a very experienced group. And all I've done is I've told myself every single time I'm with them, how can I help? Look at the environment, look at the players, because sevens isn't the big strategies of line outs, forward play, attack, defense. It's very small. It's all about energy input, energy output. What can we do to be at that level? Because a dog that's ready to run is a dog that's going to win, in my opinion. In my sevens opinion, you just take away the fear, because it's all about expression. It's one-on-ones. That's all it is. It's creating those moments where guys can just go out there and in the truest form express themselves, because you get to do that in sevens. You get 6 opportunities. The wings, the props on the open side coming back, they're going to get opportunities to run at people. So having Tabs there to advise me as a environmental coach is everything. And he knows that. I mean, we speak in private all the time. I'm not going to sit out here and talk on the pod about that, because we're meeting each other on Friday. So I can't wait. I'm like a kid in a candy shop. You know, it's going to Willy Wonka himself. But that's how it is. You know, that's how it is. I know my people, and can't wait.
Yeah, I can't wait either. Because I think the other thing for me is like observing you like in the moment. I think that's the key. Like often when you have coaching mates and you talk about like, hey, this situation and that situation and what you do with this, and often you talk about hypotheticals or you revisit stuff that's happened with you. But it's going to be really cool observing you when the shit hits the fan.
Yeah.
And see the rattle, like when the competitive juices flow and he's just like trying to put the handbrake on himself, but also like, come on, I'm going to give you the juice.
Yeah, exactly. That's the big thing for me.
It's going to be a good, I look forward to it.
Yeah.
And then we'll catch up after this and put a bit of plan in place around what you really want me to observe. And of course, how do I help when I'm in the pits? Give me some real clear things to direct me so I can help the players as they come off. So it's going to be fun.
Well, that segues nicely into what I was actually wanting to ask you. I had a few questions lined up for you, Tabs, and it's quite nice because obviously we've seen now Jeff kind of graduate to an international coach with Belgium Sevens, and we both kind of around that age where our mates start now, you know, hanging their boots up, transitioning into coaching. You know, some guys start coaching towards the end of their careers. And I just wanted to know, because going from player to coach can be quite a difficult transition, you know, for a lot of people, you know, if they haven't had that experience, if it's not something that comes naturally, or, you know, they love the game, they love wanting to give back, but they're not necessarily fit to be coaches right now. They've got developing to do, as, you know, we all do. What are some things that new coaches or young coaches, especially, or players that have kind of transitioned out of their career into being a coach, what are some things they need to really go after or focus on? You know, besides obviously the rugby and the technical bits around that, what are the things that you really picked up when you were just breaking into the coaching game?
Yeah, well, so I was lucky. My transition was really different because I ended up taking over halfway through the season in Japan and was the head coach and played for like half a season. And then my last 2 years in Japan, I played and coached, which kind of wasn't ideal. I never thought I was going to be a coach. So I was never a captain of a team. I was vice captain once for the Crusaders, but I was generally never a vice captain, never in a leadership group. And actually leadership groups didn't exist last century. And so for me, like I stumbled into the coaching piece, which kind of worked well because I was playing and then I got the opportunity to coach, and that really gave me some awareness to like walk the walk. Like a lot of people talk the talk, but like if you're the coach and you're saying like we got to do this weekend against this team, then you have to do it immaculately. Otherwise, the whole team lose lose you lose credibility within the team. So for me, I thought that was a pretty good transition. But I think what you said is really important for most players who have been journeymen. You've been around so many pretty much good coaches, good captains, that there'll be enough technical knowledge to go in and coach a part of the game, as long as you don't bite, too much off. And so really your focus is trying to get feedback. That's probably one thing I do, is like, who are you going to use to get feedback around how today's session went, how this week went, how am I going this month? And I've coached you too, so feedback is your friend. And as soon as you realize that actually the more feedback I get, the more I'm aware. I think that's probably a key thing for budding coaches.
Yeah. So within that, are you saying that it's okay to be kind of vulnerable and transparent about where you are as a coach? Because Jeff speaks about it quite a bit. We all have the egos and things like that, and you think you Bill Belichick pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Is it okay then to be open, honest, transparent, ask for that feedback, potentially admit that you might not be as strong in certain areas, and bounce ideas off your other coaches, bounce ideas off your leaders or your internationals in your team? Would that be a fair assessment of what you?
Yeah, it would be. And I think asking for feedback's, it probably is a sign of vulnerability, but often you're just asking how the session went. What could I have done better today, to the head coach, for example? Or if you're running a skills, it might be with the backs coach saying, hey, how could I have, helped you more today? And they'll generally have something pretty specific for you. And then that's it. You just, a bit like you as a player, is I just got to move chains down the field a little bit further and a little bit further. And then the probably the deeper stuff, you might get a trusted player. Like if you're playing and coaching in the team that you've recently been playing with, then you'll have teammates in there that you could probably ask for some honest feedback. That's always useful. And then you'll have people like me, like Jeff's asked me to come along to Geneva, and he knows that I'll give him honest feedback, and I want him to succeed. So I'm going to specifically watch stuff that he's trying to move, and then he knows that he can trust me. I'm not there to sabotage him. Although I accidentally, but I won't do that on purpose.
Nah, you guys
Keep me guessing. I think that's the best thing. And jumping in here, I think vulnerability is huge for me, and being so self-reflecting. I'm so self-reflecting. I'm always thinking about how was that delivery. And I think I'm actually quite a vulnerable guy. I don't mind, like, if someone says to me, that was shit, I don't mind it. And I am so passionate. So you can boil over very easily. You can easily lose your emotion if you're an emotional guy, which I am. You almost have to coach yourself, I feel, in delivering. So the delivery of everything I'm trying to do is almost like a chess game. You are trying to do that. You want to become a little bit cleaner, a little bit. So having someone giving you feedback and being eyes on you, because we don't know what we look like all the time. That's why it was so good when one of the players just started recording me. He put a mic on me, and I was like, okay. I just went with it. I forgot the mic was on, the camera was there, and I started doing a coaching session just before we're going to play our first game. And I'm watching it back, and I'm just like, oh, your energy, my buds, it's good, but it's a little bit heavy, man. You know, the way you're talking, you're everywhere. And it was just cringy to watch myself. It was really cringing. It was, I suppose it's like that for a lot of humans. But at the end of it, the second, third time I watched it, I started to break it down and being like, okay, listen, there were some good pieces here. Look at that. Look at this. So I
think the first issue you have when you start hearing yourself being recorded is like, I always thought I sounded like Denzel Washington. And then you hear yourself, you're like, oh, man. You don't sound like Denzel Washington at all. But yeah, like put a microphone on and record yourself, and then that's you. And then
did you see that video, Tabs?
I said
good. I like his energy.
Energy's class.
Yeah, and it was really interesting because the technical stuff you're talking about, I liked how you boiled it down to like the one-on-one piece and the confidence to like make one movement and be decisive. And I was the sevens I've been watching. I've been kind of looking for that. So I'm looking actually a couple of things. I'm looking forward to learning more about sevens and the bits that you think are going to be critical for the players to develop in this camp coming up.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a good few days.
No, I think just jumping on that right now, I think for us and doing that as a player, I always felt so confident when it was so clear. So when I was, I want to break it down for you real simple. KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. And that just made my little rattle brain, my little reptilia brain so happy. I was like, I'm in control. I'm just going to do one thing here. There's actually two things. Yeah. You can take him on the outside, Jeff, or if he's over chased, you can bang on the inside. Quite a simple job. Now, obviously, when you're looking and you're working with your decision makers and you're working with your Tamasi Kamas in the midfield, they've got to watch the game and play the game of chess for you. But for them to work, you've got to have your two pistons. You've got to have your boys on the edge. And in the game of sevens, you can't watch the whole pitch. So you got to look to where you want to attack. And for me, not my philosophy, but the philosophy I really enjoy, and we'll go into this, but I have a couple styles that I like to switch up. So we'll tell the boys certain things from Fiji style. It'll be like a set sort of play of how we want to play. And I won't give away what we're going to be doing. Obviously, Tabs, I'll talk to you about it. But I like I don't like the word but the team, our team, to have a couple styles. So when we're playing against the island, when you're playing against the Fiji, when you're playing against America, we can switch it up. And there's 3 or 4 different styles of what we're going to play. We're going to play quick. Are we looking to play on the edge? Are we looking to change direction a lot? Defensively, how do we want to look? So for me, it's this tournament coming up is a real big piece of driving what we started in Toulon. And it's the simple principles, the philosophy of the style, understanding the game, understanding momentum. Again, I don't think players understand what you're actually playing. What's the game we're trying to play here? And momentum is so important in sevens because you get a couple opportunities, kickoffs, getting that ball back, keeping the ball, keeping it, really treasuring it, understanding what that actually looks like. And then when you have that opportunity, can we finish it? So super good on details, super good on those little things like breakdown, pass, ruck, or breakdown. But those are the things I was driving and try to implement to the guys because we've got a bit of a staggered group now. So we had the first group of half the team was experienced veteran sevens players we had 5 or 6 18-year-olds, one 17-year-old. So I wanted to get young players into the group. I wanted to see what they're like. I wanted to see what Belgium have for the future and trying to use that because it was a university tournament we did in Toulon. So it was like Oxford University, the University of Montpellier, the University of Aix-en-Provence, which was perfect for us because we got together, we had time together, and I used it as a camp. So we flogged the guys. There was no like, we're coming here to win. It was like, we want to get our styles, like the style benders. You look at a UFC fighter, MMA fighter, Bruce Lee, who the best? It's the well-rounded fighters. You can change it up. I need a kick. I need a grapple. I need to use this. So we're gonna go down that route. And obviously a huge part of my philosophy as a coach is the word adaptation and having players that can adapt to any situation, from energy output, input, getting the ball back, keeping momentum, losing momentum, being able to adapt every single time is huge. But we'll talk afterwards. I won't share too much on this because it's a work in progress. I'm not confident enough to put it out there to the world. But there's a few really deep bits that I've sat with myself for hours and written a lot of stuff. So from coaches like you to working in France to working with the sevens you've almost formulate your own book, your own story. So
can't wait.
I'm so excited about it. Yeah.
Well, poor old Vivi, he doesn't have a clue. He hasn't played sevens since he was 16 years old.
Hey, I enjoy my sevens, but no, I didn't. As you mentioned earlier, the motor wasn't quite there. Once I started getting up around the 100 kg mark, I think my sevens days were well and truly over, Tabs. But jumping on Jeff, it was quite interesting because he was talking about styles and things like that, and we all know how important. We'll take it back to the 15-man game.
Yeah.
I'll talk about the 15s. Obviously for coaches as well. identity in a team is really important, and I guess that falls under the same umbrella as style, how you play. You know, the Springbok identity is pretty simple. I think the All Black identity has always been evident for the last 20, 30 years. I think, in my opinion, I think they've struggled with that the last couple of seasons. What exactly their identity was, what exactly their leaders were, I don't know. It's just my opinion. What I was wanting to ask you was, as a coach, you obviously have the way you want to play the game, right? I remember at Bath, you came with that 2-4-2 system. That was your attacking system. That's how you wanted to attack. Some coaches, you know, they want to kick everything, defensive, kicking game, etc., etc. How much of your style or your identity as a coach in terms of how you coach the team is embedded or dependent on the players that you have? So if you wanted to have a kicking style game with a good defense that turns the ball over and you're a counter-attacking team, whatever it may be, do you then look at your squad and try and recruit players to fit in that, or do you coach up what you already have? How does that work?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it goes back to a little bit what Jeff was saying. Like, if you're going to be successful in any league in the world, you've got to be able to play the full court game. Like, no team's going to win the English Premiership without a kicking game and a good set piece. And there's two things about the English Premiership that I love is, like, it starts in the spring or summer even, and then the game gets really dour through the winter. If you don't have a scrum, you don't have a maul, you can't stop a maul, then it's a long old winter. And then this time of year, the grounds start getting firmer, teams start offloading more, your power game comes in. You still have to have the set piece, but like there's more running rugby, and so the game finishes with a flourish into the summer. And I think in Super Rugby, for example, so I should go, you know, NPC into Super Rugby over a number of years, and so the NPC, for example, starts in the middle of winter, and then by the time you play the final, the weather is better. You're into spring now. And so your rugby's evolving as the NPC is finishing. Super Rugby is different. Super Rugby starts in the cricket season. The grounds are hard. You know, the game is fast, but you end up playing the final in the middle of winter in Christchurch, ultimately, for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
So your game goes the other way. Your set piece becomes more and more important. The kicking game becomes more and more important. You're kicking goals and all of that. So I think understanding the way your season unfolds is really important. But as Jeff was saying, teams that are going to succeed have to be able to do both. Some days they'll play without the ball and defend turnover kick penalties. Some days they might, you know, score 2 or 3 tries off first phase because of their attacking ability. And some days it might be, you know, most teams in the Premiership now will have one electric backfield player that can rip open a defence on counter-attack. I mean, look at like Newcastle's got 2, 3 guys. So yeah, it's a real interesting one. And in an ideal world, a bit like the best UFC fighters you're talking about, Jeff, is they can adapt to the moment in the game because the opposition will bring a different game plan. They don't want you to be fighting your best game. So teams will kick more contestables against Tyrone Green than they might against other teams, for example.
So is that then, how would you approach that? Because I was obviously of the mindset that, like, if you look at the Springboks, okay, and we touched on the Springboks just before you jumped on. To me, and I don't know for sure, but their game plan and their identity seems very simple. It's route one. Set piece.
Hold on.
Route
What
one.
do you think that's their identity?
That's, well, if you look at their quarterfinal, semi-final, and final, they won within 1 point. They won it with unbelievable
How
defense.
do they win that though?
Unbelievable
How do they win
defense.
their World Cup? Because this is what I think. You're sleeping on something. You know the Afrikaans. 'n boer maak 'n plan. A Dutchman makes a plan. Adaption. They were the most adaptable team. They adapted the laws. They adapted, you know, when Rassie was thrown under the bus with the whole reffing stuff. The Irish game, how they changed that, how they used the Irish game to really figure out the reffing and the ruck. And you think about Quagga, you think about the 7-1 split, you think about all those things that they did. And you think about that game against France. And guess who says what? Peter Steph Toy stands up. Who's scared? Are you scared? Is you bang? Let's make a plan. And that's the whole thing. The whole thing for me was that
what's
was
this documentary,
all
don't
about
I?
adaptation. We are a team of, we come from this diversity. We can make a plan out of anything. Anything that we do is about adaptation. They throw this against us. We love it. The harder it is, we love it. Give it to it. And that was that was their identity, Mark. I promise you. I think
Mike's talking about is the whole
style
of rugby is based on physicality. So if the opening gambit isn't about physicality, then it's not Springbok rugby.
True.
You know, the 6-1 split, all the stuff they did, the adaptability to play different teams, I agree with that. But I think you're talking about, the identity style piece is the same.
The style piece. I think you're right.
I wanted it to lead into I wanted to ask Tabs, because obviously as we progress now into wanting to be coaches and our mates wanting to be coaches and the young coaches that listen to these podcasts, it was more about how do you structure your training sessions? Okay. So what are you working on in training? How are you developing drills to, help or aid in the way you want to play the game? And surely that goes back to, okay, if I want my team to be a bash down the door team, kick everything contestable out of our own half and have an unbelievable defense, I'm not going to be making them run up and down the field throwing offloads out the back of their hand. You know what I mean? I'm going to be training for the specific thing that I want to do on a field. But also, if you want to be good across the board, that's you're a jack of all trades, but you're a master of none kind of thing. And that's also a danger. Because if you say, okay, we're going to kick and we're going to tackle and we're going to be good at this, we're going to be good at that, you might find that you just average at everything. But if you say, okay, we're going to spend all our time kicking and defending, chances are you'll be pretty effective at it. And that was
you definitely get what you focus on. You definitely get what you focus on. And you know this, you've been in teams where one of the coaches and whatever portfolio is right, we're going to do this. It might be a breakdown, it might be the more, whatever it is. And then you work on it really focused for 2 or 3 weeks, and then it becomes better, often significantly better. And I think that's always the goal, is what is the priority this week? It's kind of cool. Back in my Super Rugby days, you would go to South Africa for 2 weeks. And so that you've got 2 weeks to prepare for South Africa. And so if your scrum and your maul is not up to speed and your high ball is not up to speed, it's going to be a tough tour in South Africa. But you don't do that the week you land in Johannesburg. You do that 2 weeks before. In the backs units, there's a little bit of high ball stuff. The forwards are doing a little bit more scrum stuff 2 weeks before they go to Africa. You might talk about mauls a little bit. Now, that might not be relevant for playing the Waratahs this week and the Chiefs the following week. But you have to kind of preload everything because there's a lag of everything you do. So the stuff we often do now can often prime and give an awareness to change something at training and maybe for this upcoming game. But if you do it for 2 or 3 weeks, then you can have a significant shift. So it's more around not being a jack of all trades, but just focusing on what you need that you'll be required in 2 weeks.
So I guess that's where the adaptation comes in. Because you're looking ahead and saying, okay, we need to tweak this, we need to tweak this. But
so often your schedule of who you play can make a big difference around your training being consistent. If you play a Northampton and then a Saracens and then a Sale and then an Exeter, those styles are completely different. And so from 1 week to another week, you're chopping and changing what you have to defend and how you have to attack. But if you play Sale and Sarries and Bath in a 3-week block, man, you're going to roll out a lot of the same menu.
Yeah.
But you know this because you guys you've been in the grind and you know the teams really well. And so as you approach the upcoming team, you know what's coming and you know that actually if we don't get this right against this player, for you at the scrum, or but Jeff, the guy you're marking, if I don't get this right against this team, it could be a long day.
Yeah, Tabs, going on from that, I was watching something so interesting. I was watching a podcast with Julian Edelman, and the guy that used to coach with Bill, Ernie. He coached with him for like 25 years. And Ernie was notorious for being the genius behind Bill Belichick's success at not Northampton, New England Patriots.
Northampton Saints.
For years. Like, the dynasties, the two dynasties. And when they were talking about this and old Ernie, he said something that was so profound to me. He said, anticipation beats reaction every day, every single time. And he said, if you've seen it before, you don't react, you anticipate. So if you've seen stuff before, so we do this a lot with you. We do kick tennis or we play situational games where we play the way Sale would play. I mean, a lot of people in the Premiership play like this. On the Thursday, everyone's primed to play like a Finn Russell if you're playing against Bath. He's moving the same way, he's stepping the same way, he's kicking the same way. But that's a huge piece for me when I was thinking about it. I was thinking about, if you want to be able to play fast, you've got to be able to anticipate. You've got to know what's coming your way. So that's a huge piece. I mean, people who are supporters of rugby and supporters of the Premiership, especially, knowing what's coming is so important. But when I was listening to this, understanding, and then it came into the thing where I felt like we did this with you, was situational rugby. So everything is situational. So when you're on the training pitch on a Thursday, it would be situational play. You would have a walkthrough, you'd have another walkthrough, you have another walkthrough. And so important to understand everyone's little detail. And you see that with the Springboks too. They use that, the PlayStation or the Xbox on Chasing the Sun too. And everyone's sitting there with their joystick, and they have to know where their position is. So they're moving the joystick. I don't know if it's out in the UK yet, but I've got a friend who knows a friend who sends me some stuff. So they're sitting there with the Game Boy or the PlayStation, and everyone's moving their place. So they're sitting, it's not even a walkthrough. They're doing a computer game, and they knows their position on the pitch come match day.
Good,
and I just thought about that. That's exactly the detail that allows the player to play with no fear, because everything is in the brain. Everything is there. You've done it 6 or 7 times. You've seen the cards. You've seen what's to come, and then you can anticipate. When you can anticipate, you can play fast.
Yeah.
And they were talking about that at New England, how they used to do that. And Ernie was the guy. He would go in and he would be Bill Belichick's sniffer dog. He wouldn't speak too much. He wouldn't speak in meetings, but he would be the eyes and the feeler for Bill. Yeah. And then you've got Edelman sitting there saying, how many games would you have watched? He's talking about how many games a year? Thousands of football games. I'd sit there watching. And he'd bring back stuff that Miami used in 1995. He'd bring it back. And you'd say, look, this coach has got tendencies to run this on the third play. Because it's so, American football, it's so much, it's so regimented.
Play by play.
Exactly. And I love that. I love that money ball. American sports is fantastic to me. And I love the way they put so much money into it, because it's $1 billion industry. It's far ahead of rugby. So when you start looking ahead into what they're doing, and you try to bring that into rugby, or into especially as a coach, a young coach coming through, it gives me like goosebumps. I'm like, wow, this is incredible.
Yeah. And that cue recognition, understanding when I see that, and this is the way I'm going to anticipate, I think that is gold. I'll tell you a quick side story, because it changed the way I coached a little bit. This is going back about 10 years. 10 years, I came across a study, and it was about reactions. And what they did is they got a car simulator, one of those really good ones where there's a screen at the front, screen at the side, and they had 2 groups. They put one group in the car, and they said, you're going to drive for 30 minutes, and during this 30 minutes, you will be in a car accident. So be ready. I'm not going to tell you where the car's going to come from, but you've just got to drive for 30 minutes. You'll be in an accident. Then they put another group, the control group, in, and they said, oh, we're testing the wing mirrors. You just got to drive for 30 minutes. And then but with that second group, with the control group, they actually, same thing. They actually were going to be in a car accident at some point. So one group they primed and said, you're going to be in a car accident. One group they didn't tell was going to be in a car accident. Okay, and what was profound for me is when they did the reactions, the way people reacted, were those that were told they were going to be in a car accident responded slower than those that were just driving and then something happened and then they relied on their instincts. And so for me, the one of the keys is you want to give them scenarios, but not the exact scenarios. You know, if the 9 runs a lot, you know what, you might get a lock picking and going. You might get someone, the winger coming and scooting. Yeah. Okay, so people are aware that actually I've got to keep a little bit more close on the breakdown, because if you over prescribe that scenario, what the research says is you'll respond slower. And so this is that thing you were talking about what you want to do. You want to give them confidence, prepare them well, but let them be free, because when you're free, you react quicker.
Yeah.
Okay, and I know you don't like the word reaction, so you respond quicker. I think response is a better word. So when you see something, I can respond to that quicker.
That is gold.
That's very interesting, because I was just, before you got onto the card thing, I was going to ask you, because obviously, like in NFL, the detail is off the charts because it is play by play by play by play, and they react off slight movements, changes in defensive looks or whatever it may be. But rugby, I find, and I've been in these positions before, where a lot of the time you feel overcoached. So there's too much detail. And is rugby, as a coach or as coaches, is it better to kind of leave that room for that instinct? Because it's a fluid game. It's constantly moving.
Yeah.
No two phases are the same. You know, you have to rely a bit on that natural ability to come out. And is there a risk of, perhaps because of too much detail or too much coaching, could that potentially put that at risk?
I think it's the same in all sports, and probably the same even in the NFL. Like, the games are different. So, you know, what Jeff is saying is, like, it's a bit like a game of chess. If you see this scenario, if I move here, it's checkmate. And so in the NFL, like, every play is so scripted. My job is this, and so they've got to study their role within the team format. Rugby is more fluid. Sevens is more fluid again. Am I responding to what the defense is doing now? Jeff's run that way. I've got to, how do I anticipate what he's going to do next? And you've got to give players the freedom to do that. There's always, one of the great things about, I did the Māori All Blacks for 3 years. And one of the great things about when you tour with a team like that is we assembled on a Sunday after the NPC final on a Saturday. And then on a Monday night, we'd fly to somewhere. My first tour was to Canada. And then you arrive Tuesday, middle of the day, evening, so you don't do anything Tuesday. Wednesday, people are jet lagged, so you might have a bit of a walkthrough. Thursday, you have one training, but people are still... And so you get one training run. And so if you're like one of these coaches is like, this is what Canada are going to do. They're going to do this here. They're going to do this here and here. From a scrum, they're going to do this. And, oh, mate, there's not enough time on a one training day week to give the players the knowledge, or do they have the ability to absorb all of that?
Yeah.
So you've got to give them what they need and nothing more.
Yeah. I think that's such a fine balancing act. I think the good coaches really get it right, because it is important. If you can find stuff, the style of play, the style of fight that you're going to go up against, if you as a coaching team or coaching staff can find those things, and especially if you look at big organizations and when there's staff through the roof, I do think there's overcoaching. I do think people get very almost more is more, but it actually isn't. You can get overcoached, and I've been part of systems where it's like that, where the coach is just so, what's the name, on detail, you forget about the freedom of expression and the art form of actually being fearless to express yourself, because you're so conformed to being a robot. And you can take NFL, for example. It's such a robotic game. It's, you know, when the guy lines up 3 on the side and they've done this 6 times, you know where the ball's going. So it is a little bit more of a chess game compared to a rugby. But
the greatest NFL players are the ones who are the most adaptable.
Yes.
but they're really good. You call them robots, but they're like computers. They see their play. They see a blitz. There's something in the blitz that's slightly different. They adapt their run. They do a different throw that's not even on the script, and that's the difference between the greatest players, and the ones that are really, really good.
Yeah.
There's a level of, and the Chiefs have got one who's probably going to be the great, not because he's a robot, but because he can adapt and throw the ball in such a random way that it's hard to defend.
Yeah.
And Tabs, from a coaching point of view, maybe at international rugby, it's a bit different because the players in an international squad, the difference in ability between top to bottom is pretty small, I'd imagine. In like an All Black team or a Springbok team, those guys are pretty much at the top of their game. But when you're coaching at maybe Super Rugby level, club rugby level in England or in France, you might have a little bit of a broader valley in terms of talent.
Yeah.
So my question is, how do you deal with a guy? What's your approach to coaching a guy that can probably only get 1 or 2% better? He's already at his peak. You want to just push him a little bit forward in his game versus a guy that can get 20 or 30% better. How do you approach those guys? Is it more mental with a guy that's already at one of the best in the world? Versus
I think like every player wants to move. I think that's the big thing. Even if they're 32 years old and they know they're coming to the end, if you can help a player move, well, one thing, it's the most satisfying thing as a coach is like players when they develop and if it's 2%, often they're satisfied. Man, I'm at my end of my career, but I'm still growing. So there's a real deep satisfaction, I think, at that as a coach. I think everything's mental. I think every change in technique or understanding of the game, it's always unlocked by the brain. So I think there's always you always have to unlock the mind before you can unlock their hands or their shoulders to tackle, whatever it might be. So I think they go hand in hand. One thing I do know, and it's a real interesting one, and it's kind of dawned on me more and more over the last kind of 3 or 4 or 5 years, is you only make individual shifts, or you only make technical shifts pretty much one-on-one. If you come in, I'm running the backs and we're doing like skill training, and that'll be good because it'll be specific, probably 1 for the style of play we want to enhance, and probably 2, this is what you're going to get on Saturday. So that will be the general 2 things, the reason I've made that. But people generally don't improve individually in a backs unit session. If you want to improve your game, whether it be the high ball, whether it be tackling, whether it be passing, that'll happen one-on-one, maybe 2-on-1 with a coach or with another teammate. And it's those incremental moments you put 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 10 minutes. And then 6 months later, I'm a way better tackler now. I don't get better at tackling when I do the generic tackle drills that the defense coach gets me, which is often just a primer, around, parts of the game. I don't know if I've answered that, VV.
No, you have. So are you saying that from your experience, the players only get better technically like one-on-one?
Generally, yeah.
So then what?
You scrummaging or throwing.
Yeah.
Like when you're throwing into the line out in the unit session, you're not really improving. Maybe at a superficial level, you're improving your technical throw, but all your throw is good because of all the hours you spent either one-on-one or with the hookers just focusing on that part of your game.
Yes.
And so clearly with a guy who's younger, you can move them really quickly, 20%, because they're starting from 0. But for the starting hooker in a team who's 32, that 2% could be the difference between.
Well, it's really interesting you mentioned throwing, because obviously you do get better working, throwing all those hours. But then one could say there's that mental side to it, because you could be a great thrower in training. The moment the pressure's on, or you've got to throw a line out 5 meters out in the 80th minute to look after the game or win the game, some guys have it, some guys don't. So how do you develop that?
Situation.
That's
a great question. How do you layer in and you can't, like your line out throwing, got to be one of the hardest jobs. That and goal kicking. You can
Hookers are the
Yeah,
most
what?
underpaid, underappreciated rugby players in the
Did
world.
you say hookers? Is he trying to get a pay rise here? Did you say hookers or goal kickers?
I said hookers, throwers. We're
I
the
agree.
most. You wouldn't get any line-out ball if it wasn't for hookers.
I agree. I really, I must say, hookers they have to do it all. They have to do it all.
I've got to stand up for the hookers here, Tabs. You guys are all just backs, wanting to pay backs.
There's always a line out guru, isn't there? Someone who's always saying, you know, you've been on for 2 minutes. It's a 5 meter line out, and he's trying to get you to throw to the back.
I've been in that
With the
position.
wind coming in sideways.
Honestly, it's the worst feeling in the world.
I'm going to tell you a story about throwing to the back of a line out. So I was playing sevens with
Oh,
England.
here we go. Here's a sevens line out throwing story.
Got to take it back.
And I was, hold on. Listen to this. It's brilliant. And I was coming back from injury and they sent me down to Richmond. And I was playing in the Richmond third team. And in this game, I was playing flank. And they said, my coach, Simon Amoy, said, I want you playing flank. I want you making some tackles. I want you carrying the ball. I just get involved with it. You know, you're coming back from ACL. I first scored a try. I ran around this is crazy. I ran around and the ref looked at me on this cabbage patch in the middle of nowhere at Henley. And he said, you should play on the wing, mate. You're pretty quick. And I thought to myself, yeah, well, actually, I'm a sevens player. So you're onto something there. The next phase, we kicked the ball out. I have a line out and we had this call. It was like star X. And I was at the back of the line out. And if I saw no one around me, I had to call star X. And as I shouted to the hooker, star X, he had the ball like this. And he said to me, mate, that's too far. That's too far, mate. Like he couldn't throw the ball that far to me. So that was my first experience of a hooker when I called the line out. It was one of the funniest moments. He's sitting like this and I'm in the back of the line out and I shout, star X. And he's just like, no, mate, that's too far. It's
a tough job. It's a flipping tough job.
I agree, mate.
So Tabs, going back to what I was asking, then, if that's the case, if you find that players only get better, like for the most part, or get doing those one-on-one drills, how would you structure your week then? If you could, your perfect week, how would you structure that for a coach?
Yeah, and I'll be really clear. It's the technical stuff. It's the technical one-on-one. If you want to become a better tackler, anything that's technical, I believe, will be moved way quicker one-on-one. And I think if you have a look at the best teams, like I was really lucky, I went to watch the All Blacks train before they got pumped by the Springboks at Twickenham last year. And what was the most, exciting thing to watch was at the end of training, the quality of the individual work-ons was just like, man, these guys are really clear what they're working on. If they want support from a coach, they've got the support. Otherwise, players are coaching each other. They'd go from one activity that they might spend 5-6 minutes on one activity and go to another activity. And then that was real quality practice. And I thought, man, these guys are sharpening their individual, tools. And ultimately you've been in teams where players move the most. It'll be in that time, a lot of it, not a lot of it, but a big chunk of it will be coach led initially. But if you have a look at any world-class player, they know what they need to move and they will sharpen their own weapon. They're not relying on the defense coach to improve my tackle. They're going out and getting what they need every day, or whatever days in the week.
That for me is one of the most exciting pieces of being a rugby player, is having those little, or now moving into a coach, but creating those sort of like little stations where players can go like a pit stop, pull in there and go, fix the tires, use that as a tackle. But the drill around that, it's so, and the funny thing is actually New Zealand, I first cottoned onto this on their YouTube channel. Whenever you see them training, they've got these like 6 or 7 stations around the pitch and everyone's just going to work. Like you see guys working on their pass, see Bowden Barrett doing stuff, and then you see the guys working on their tackling. You see Artie Surveyor working on the ruck. And it's like you said, the attention to detail around that. But that's when me and Ant used to work together, Ant Watson, that was some of the most exciting trainings, is when you're sitting there breaking down, okay, I want to work on the inside step today. And he's breaking it down for you and he wants to go through it at full speed 5 or 6 times, but it's going to be great. You're going to try and really upskill yourself. Yeah. And that, for me as a coach, is something that we've spoken about it before, but it's those ghost cat behaviors that you're doing in the dark, and you continue sharpening your tool, your axe, your whatever you want to call it. that is the excitement of like, you know, upgrading. It's almost like
If you get to do it with an Ant Watson, or if you're doing like scrummaging with like a world-class scrummager, I mean, you know, that's the way you go. You get a good stable of people, and you go at it, and then, you know, what's that saying? There's a great saying here. Was it iron sharpens iron?
sharpens iron. Yeah.
Yeah.
So on that tab, going back to the All Blacks, would would those extras be purely player led, or would they speak about it before, prior? Okay, boys, this is what we're going to chase. This is what Group Y is going to chase, and the drills or the places for them to do that will be set up prior to training. How would it work?
Yeah, it'll be a bit of both. Like most players will go, I want to work on this on a Tuesday and I want to work on that on a Thursday. And they'll generally organize it themselves, but they might need some assistance from a coach. And also, some of the coaches might go, hey, we're playing the Springboks this weekend, so everybody at some point in this week needs to come and do 5 minutes with me doing a chop tackle or whatever it is, or doing a ball security thing because of how good Quagga Smith is, whatever it is. So there'll be a little bit of both. And that's why you might see multiple stations that people roll around. But I would say in most cases with the All Blacks, people are sharpening their own weapons. You know what your weapon is. I know that when I play well, and that will be one of my conversations, like when I'm with the Māori All Blacks, is if you get one training and you want to be at your most confident leading into this test match, what do you need to work on? What are the two things you need to nail off to play well on Saturday? Most players, once they've played a handful of, a few years of professional rugby, will know, actually, I'm at my best when I sharpen this and this. And yeah, I've got to be really good at this and I've got to do that, and my high balls will work on blah, blah. But if I sharpen this tool and this tool, I go in with confidence. This is me. This is why I'm in the team. And then they roll into the game feeling confident, and then everything flows off that. Excellent at the habit.
It's funny you say that, because we had Malachi Fekitoa on last week, and he speaks about the exact same thing about when he got into the All Black environment. They spoke about why he's here, what makes him good. There's no gray areas. They know exactly why they're there, and they know exactly what they're good at, and they know exactly what they got to work on to continually, do that black jersey proud and continually get the chance to wear that black jersey. So it's about knowing who you are, isn't it? Like knowing what your point of difference is, knowing what gets you picked.
Yeah. One of the, and I'm going to annoy Jeff for this over the next few years. One of the issues you have as a coach is, as you coach players over a long period of time, you find out what all their flaws are. You find out all their flaws. You can't do this, and geez, he's got to work on that left-hand pass, and yeah, that high ball in the 22 is a bit of an issue. And so you've got this massive list of things that the player can't do, and that's a real flaw. And if you're not aware of that as a coach, that becomes your lens when you look at players. I look at you, and it's like, man, I've got a stack load of work on. Oh, him, man. And then suddenly your roster is this team of work-ons that can't play. And so you've got to be really conscientious, going, this person is in the team, because if he gets the ball there, he is breaking that tackle, or like if anyone falls at his feet, he's turning over the ball. Like he's in the team because he's our best line-out guy, whatever it might be. And so it's really easy, because our desire as coaches is to improve people. And so, that's a double-edged sword if you let it be your only lens.
I love that. That is gold for me, mate. Because it's so easy to be caught up in that fear. And the fear is always rooted to looking at, how's he going to disappoint me? How's he going to drop it?
No,
I'll never forget. I had an argument with a coach. I had an argument with a coach, and my argument to him was, he's like, yeah, but technically, high ball, everything, the guy's better than you. And I looked at him and said, yeah, but I've got heart. I'll make us win. And he was just like, he looked at me, he's like, no, I'm still going with the other guy. But I was like, but I can connect people. I was like,
that's
my go-to.
Jeff's talking about the conversation we had.
No, it's not. It's not. It was.
Um,
It wasn't. It wasn't you. You told me. I never forget this. You always knew my strength. You knew that I was that guy in the baseball team that was going to make the other guys happy. You know, you're not going to. You said to me, Jeff, you're not going to play every game, but you're a connector of people. And you like that baseball. You always use the baseball analogy of like, you know, in the dugout, you're always making the guys feel there's a camaraderie, there's a winning attitude, and it's so important. You made me feel very appreciated. I knew my role. I loved my role. You understand?
you're an enabler. You
Yeah.
enable other people to be their best self and to
Yeah.
and make I think the other thing is the change room's got to be enjoyable. Like any team can have the best coaches and the best program and the best plan and loading, blah, blah, blah. But if you don't have a group of people who love the changing room and love going to work, then it just becomes a job and then no one wins.
I love that.
Hey, you're now in your role is now selection. You know, Jeff. And so for you now, like that whole responsibility around making sure you don't have that lens where you're always trying to fix people.
Huge.
How do we win with you and the team? Oh, it's exciting. But I'm going to be your I'll have you back on that.
Yeah, thanks. And I mean, for me, the last question I was going to ask you is, for you and yourself, where you are now. You know me. I call you the master. But what are you chasing? What is something that you're looking to evolve your coaching game to? What are you looking to get better at? What are you chasing? What are you sharpening, should I say, to make yourself a better Jedi? What are you doing?
Yeah, I think context is everything. So, you know, whether you're coaching in France, whether you're coaching in England, or you're coaching in Japan, the context is everything. Like the nuts and bolts of a rugby program is pretty consistent around the planet. But can you go into an environment with different people and different cultures, different language, and can you connect with people? I think that's still the cornerstone of leadership is, can I influence people to try and improve? Because, you know, the question is, Mikey, you've been asking around, how do you move individuals? How do you move a player who's at the end of his career? How do you move a player who's at the start of his career? Influence is ultimately about people. And then, you know, it's the context of that. I still think that's the bit that, can you walk into a group of people and add value? The games, yeah, I'm a bit disillusioned with the game. That might be another podcast. Around there's a lack of aspiration in the way the game can be played, and the desire to be more positive with the game, the way rugby can be played. Like if you look at sevens, it's not the purest form of rugby, but like if you're not out there to score tries and carry the ball up the field and dominate and offload and keep the ball alive, then there's no way you can win a sevens game. And then defensively, if you can't stop the team moving forward up the field, but in the 15s game, there's anyway. Oh, you see, you've started. So
I hear about it this weekend.
You got me off on the side. I went right off on a tangent then.
I love that.
Tabs, you can golf on your tangent, or we can have you on 25 more times.
Episode 3, chess and checkers.
You're a family of the journeyman.
Yeah. Well, at some point, you need to. I am a journeyman.
Yes.
Well, a journey can be defined by anything, really, can't it?
Well, I do.
It's a journey.
Why would you pack your bags on that plane?
New Zealand, England. My Lord, he is the journeyman. He's the
OG.
I think for you guys, it's probably been different. Like one of the things, and I think one of the things I love about the Journeyman Company is that you're dealing with the guys that didn't make the New Zealand 20s and wasn't the first 15 captain at Grey College and doesn't have agents knocking on his door, you know, after school. It's for the group of men and women who like are enablers or like really good players, but there's a shining light who's in front of them and have got to find their journey somewhere else. You know, they've got to get on the call and connect in another way to go on their journey, because the journey's harder. I always feel like when I get on this show, it's like hopefully we're giving insights to those young people who are battling along in a pretty tough game.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, essentially, like we just want to share stories as well. There's so many incredible people, from All Blacks to guys that have played championship rugby in England. Jeff's cousin played rugby in Sri Lanka. There's so many people with so much to give back.
Yeah.
Not just to the players, but to the coaches, to people in their life that might be struggling with whatever, you know? That's essentially what we want to do. Because, I mean, you mentioned there, like, disillusioned with the game or whatever it may be. We've all been through tough times in this game. Yes, we've been life has pulled us. We've had a few hidings, but we just keep going, and that's where you learn those lessons. We just keep going, and we meet incredible people along the way, and I think that's what it's about.
Mike, that's the thing. For me, selfishly, this is like a school, like a university of what's good habits, what people think, and you start to figure out. I mean, I've got a notebook full of stuff from 12 episodes. You're speaking to Fakatoa and you speaking to Tabs the next day. It's like there's so many experiences there, and we're speaking to Fakatoa on Friday, and he was telling us about how they recruit. How do they get to Wesley College in New Zealand? And it's all word of mouth. It's all about an ex-player, an old Tongan player that's looking after the village. Uncle, but it's not, he was saying he's not our uncle, but we get looked after, and they bring us over to France, and the boys come over, and it's all helping culture. And I think that's the big thing about the journeyman. You're trying to be like that. And I'm a big fan. And coming to France, I spoke to Toko about this, about how I came to France and got embraced by the island community over here. Because, you are a stranger. You don't speak French very well. And we had maybe 5 or 6 island boys at Béziers. And Big Joe was his name, Joe Tunui. And he brought me into his house, and he had a family, and he's from New Zealand, and he treated me like a brother. He gave so much to me. And I was just like, wow. And that was one of the biggest things. I said this to Fakatoa. I was like, one of the biggest gifts I ever got from rugby is learning cultures like this. You understand culture, understand what it means, how it's delivered, language, even being in France, understanding the French culture. So yeah, you're right, Tabs. It is something we want to hopefully help people with. And we don't really get we do get some people reaching out to us, but if you're listening to this and you want to get involved, and we've got an email address, get in touch with me and Mike, and we will happily help you. Advice, contacts. It's something that we really want to do. We're trying to grow that now, big time. We're coming together with a business plan, and we're trying to grow something where we can get sponsorship, hopefully helping us, moving us forward. Someone that wants to go with us on this journey, because it's so exciting. But as you know, you need to have avenues of help, mentorship, especially on the business side. So we've reached out to our contact book, especially LinkedIn with Mikey. He's doing good things there. So it's exciting.
Bro, just before we close, just going back to the extras. I've never had a coach before or since. But to be fair, Scotty Baldwin at Newcastle, he gets stuck in a little bit. But I've never had a coach who after training would put on a full contact suit and let some of the best rugby players in the world smash him for like 45 minutes, bro. Toby Faletau, Dave Denton, flipping Sam Underhill, Francois Lowe, those boys would pile into town.
Williams.
He didn't really move when you tackled him.
No, it's ankle biting.
To be fair, I haven't had too many 6'5" Fijian coaches that were still in Nick to be able to do that. But no, Tabs, we're so grateful for you.
I do it with a return. Oh yeah, thank you.
You've got a lot to share and a lot to give back. So as we move forward and beg you to come onto the podcast more and more, I'm sure you will help a lot of young coaches and players along the way.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. It's good to connect with you guys, because every time I see you, I feel joy. And like you, if we can help by chewing the fat and talking rugby, then let's keep on doing it.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to number 3. Thanks, Tabs.
Thanks, Tabs.